final episode of Stranger Things just dropped. So, in celebration of the finale, I decided to take some inspiration from the show and create my own little scene, but with limited budget gear. So first was to write and storyboard the shots just to see how the scene plays out. I knew I wanted to keep the scene relatively simple because I knew it was just going to be me filming and setting everything up and just my girlfriend acting. But I wanted to recreate the flickering lights effect that is so popular with Stranger Things and have a demogorgon come out of the gate from the upside down, similar to what happened to Holly in early season 5. So I used that concept as the root of my scene and I kept it as simple as that. I'll have my character come home at night time, let's say it's after work, but something isn't quite right as she hears something upstairs. The lights shut off, so she gets out her handy torch that is conveniently on the shelf, but then all of a sudden, the lights start flickering. She is completely startled and steps back as a red glow emits from the upstairs. That's a gate opening. A creature rises from the red light, casting a shadow of its figure on the wall, and then we finish on a jump scare, revealing the demogorgon. Cut to black. Let's start with lighting the scene for the downstairs shots with the character. This is the gear I'll be using. We've got two Aperture MCs, a Lanzi tube light, an Amaran 60XS, and an Amaran 200D. I'll leave links in the description to everything I used to film the scene if you guys want to check them out. Let's start by using the Amaran 60XS to create some nighttime moonlight shining through the doorway. To do this, I set it up on a stand and taped a blue gel over the cone of the light. This will then project a blue hue instead of a white light, which better suits a creative styled moonlight that I want. I move the stand outside, up high, and shining into the doorway. And from the inside, it looks like this. It keeps the actor silhouetted from the background when all the lights inside are off. Next, we need some light on the inside for when she comes in the house because it's just too dark. So I grabbed a lamp from my lounge room and put it on the bookshelf for her to turn on as she comes in the door. To control this, I put one of my Aperture MC lights in the lampshade instead of the original bulb. I set it to 3200 Kelvin for a warm color which contrasts the moonlight in the background, and that already is looking pretty nice. And then later, I'll be able to switch this light to flicker like crazy, so it's actually acting as a practical light. A practical light is a light that is actually visible in your scene, and in this case, and in a lot of cases, it's a lamp. Next, I want an overhead light to flicker when things start to go crazy. So I got a light stand and a boom arm and set it up with an Aperture MC attached to the end of the boom looking down. I set the light to a high intensity flicker and then pushed it up high to the roof, and there we go. An easy overhead lighting setup. So that is honestly the base lighting of the shots down here at the doorway. The only thing that was added was a red tube light that shines on the actor's face to emulate the gate opening from the upstairs, but that was as simple as pointing the tube light at the character's face. For my camera setup, I used my trusty GH5S on my RS3 Pro gimbal and shot on the Sigma 18-35 for most of the shots and Sirui 55mm for close-ups. I followed my storyboard closely, shot by shot, so shooting didn't take too long once the lighting was all set up. Moving on to the second part of the coverage of the scene, which is basically all just the shots looking up the stairs. These shots would include the house lights off with just the moonlight, torch light looking up the stairs, house lights flickering, and also the red glow emitting from the gate. So let's begin lighting. Again, I started with some sort of moonlight so it wasn't complete darkness looking up the stairs. For this, I used my Amaran 60XS again, but this time I attached my spotlight modifier onto it. This is so I could shape some fake window light using a gobo insert. A gobo allows you to project specific patterns using a spotlight modifier. In this case, I'm using the Spotlight SE from Amaran. I then taped the same blue gel over the top of the spotlight to project the blue tinted moonlight. I put it far back and at a high angle on the stand, and there we go. A cool pattern to light up the dark space. While this was set up, I got that dark shot that I needed with just the moonlight. Then a shot with the ambient light from downstairs mimicking the light being turned on. I did this by chucking another Aperture MC light on 3200 Kelvin and just pointing it to the roof. Then we turned that one off because I knew we didn't need that anymore because we wanted the whole scene to be dark again so we could use the flashlight. We grabbed our torch turned it on and pointed it upstairs, waving it around, just to act like we are looking upstairs searching for what the hell made that noise. And all these shots are similar repeated camera movements, dollying in, almost acting as a POV. And next up was to make everything flicker upstairs. So firstly, I set up that same rig we used before with the boom arm and the light stand with the Aperture MC light attached to it, put it up at the top of the stairs, put it up high to act as a flickering ceiling light off camera. It would be better to use something like the Aperture B7C, which is a controllable LED light bulb, and put that in the actual light socket in the ceiling, but unfortunately, I don't have that in my kit. And for some extra feel light flickering in the lounge room background, I got my Amaran 200D with an orange gel taped over the cone modifier to shine a warm, harsh light towards the roof of the house, just to generally fill and light up the ambience of the house as it flickers intensely. I then filmed that same shot dollying in from the downstairs as everything flickered upstairs. And then we wanted to introduce the red gate light emitting on the wall. Again, we used the Ulanzi tube light and slowly revealed the light to the wall as if it was growing open. So we filmed that shot as well, the same shot. And then after that, I got a shot of the figure growing from the red light, casting a shadow on the wall. We did this by simply grabbing a pillow and attaching Baby Groot's head right to the top. Honestly, it does the job, but knowing it's Baby Groot's head at the top is kind of goofy. Anyways, that's it for most of the shooting, but there is one final shot that I knew I wanted. I thought it would be a cool idea to actually have a demogorgon in the scene visibly as the final jump scare shot, but I didn't quite know how I was going to achieve it. Initially, I was thinking of just rotoscoping out a shot of a demogorgon from Stranger Things and just compositing it myself, but I decided to go the harder way and try doing it myself in 3D. Now, I am not well versed in Blender or anything 3D at all, so I knew I was going to need some help. Starting with the model, I found this one on CG Trader and it looked really good. It did cost money, but I was happy to pay for the quality. I got it into Blender and completely forgot how to apply textures. But after some quick YouTube help, I got something to work with in the end. The next step was rigging and animating the demogorgon. This was an absolute pain. I still don't know why till this day, but I just could not get the rig to parent to the model, to the mesh. I tried so many times and alternative ways, but in the end, I went through Mixamo, which is an online software that basically auto rigs your models for you and applies animation to it. I was actually surprised it did pretty good considering that the demogorgon is such a weirdly shaped, lanky creature. So eventually, I finally got an animation working inside Blender. I added some noise animation to the flaps on the face just because it felt too rigid before when the demogorgon was roaring. I wish I could do more to it, but I'm just not at that level yet for 3D. Next was to match the lighting and the camera angle that I shot with the clean plate. Now this was probably the easiest part of the process because I already knew the lighting setup that I had because I shot it the previous day. So I basically replicated that as best as I could. And there we go. I rendered it out, put it over the top of my clean plate in Final Cut Pro, added some slight color grade to it and some extra effects to help blend it into the scene. So finally, after all this work, here is the final scene. hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. I'll see you guys later.